Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the next Codeigniter video. I think this is part 7. In the last video, we created the registration functionality. We can now add a user to the database. Now what we want to do is we want the user to obviously be able to log in. So let's go to our views, and we're going to go to the users folder here in our views and say new file and save that as login.php. Okay, so we're going to have our form. Let's say echo form open. And then down here, we'll go ahead and echo form close. You can use the standard form tags if you want. And then this is going to be submitted to users/login. Okay, and we're using Bootstrap, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a 4-column div and then align it to the middle. Okay, so it looks kind of like a real login form for a back end. Okay, so let's give this a class of row. Oops. And we're going to say div class call md 4, I believe. And then we want to offset it 4 because we want it in the middle. So for that, we'll say call md offset -4. Okay. And then in here is where we want to put our form. I'm going to put an h1 in here as well. And I'm going to give it a class of text center, which is a Bootstrap class. And in here, it's just going to say whatever we put for the title. So we'll say PHP echo title. Alright, and then we'll do our form fields. So let's create a div with the class of form group. Another Bootstrap class. And then let's put the input. It's going to have a type of text. And let's see, it's going to have a name of username. Class will be form control. And placeholder, let's just say username. And then I'm just going to add on required and also autofocus so that the cursor goes right in that field. Alright, so let's copy this form group, and then this one's going to be the password. Make sure we change the type as well. Actually, for the placeholder, I'm going to say enter username, enter password. Okay, and then we'll have our submit. btn primary. We'll say login. All right. So let's go ahead and save that. Then we need to go to our controller, users controller. And let's see, what I'm going to do is copy the register function here. Alright, and then we'll go right below it. We'll say login user. Okay, so let's change the function name to login, change the title to, let's say, sign in, and then for the rules, we're just going to have the username and password, so we can get rid of that, get rid of the email validation and the name validation. And we don't want the check username exists right here, so get rid of that, but they are required, so that should be good. Okay, so if the form has not been run or if there's some errors, then we just want to load the template. So that's going to be users/login, which is what we just did. And then down here is what's going to happen when we log in and it passes. So let's change the message here to user logged in, and we'll say you are now logged in. And let's see, we'll add that to the header in a little bit. But what we need to do now is basically call the model to verify the login through the database. Now we need to encrypt the password that's typed when we actually, you know what, let's first save this and see if we can actually go to it. So user/login. Let's see, what's this? Views user login. Oh, I put a colon here. That should be a semicolon. All right. There it is. So now we have our login page. Actually, you know what? I want this button to span all the way across. So let's just add a class of button block. Okay, so there's our sign-in form. You know what? Let's do the same thing with register. We'll make that smaller too. So let's go to, let's see, register PHP, and we'll just wrap this in a div with the class of row. Tab this over twice because we're going to need another class. And this is going to be call MD4, call MD offset 4. Okay, whoops, the offset didn't work. Oh, and then for the title, let's take that and move it right here. And I'm just going to change it to an H1. And let's also give it a class of text center. There we go. And then the button, we'll add the button block class. So now we have our register and login forms. Let's create a link to the login. So we need to go to our header file. And let's see, we'll just copy the register link. And let's put that right here. Actually, we'll put that first. So that's going to go to user/login. And we'll change this to login. Okay, so now we have a link. Good. And it's just yellow because of my LastPass Chrome extensions. Yours shouldn't be yellow. So now what we'll do is go back to our users controller and go to the login function. And we want to be working in this else. Okay, so if everything passes, then first thing I'm going to do is get the username. And we'll put that into a variable called username. And of course we can get that with this input post username. And we also want to get and encrypt the password. So let's say get and encrypt the password. So we'll put that in a variable. And we're going to use MD5 again because that's what it's stored as in the database. And here we'll say this input post and password. Okay. And then we're going to call a model function, but what I want to do is the model function is going to do all the matching, make sure the username and password is correct, and then I want to have it return the user ID. All right, so let's say login user, and we're going to have a variable called user_ID. We're going to set that to this user model, and that's going to have a function called login, and then we just want to pass in the username and password. So that'll give us the user ID, or it'll give us false if it's not a correct login. All right, so we want to check for that ID. Okay, so if there is a user ID, then we're gonna, then we'll go on to we'll go on to create the session. All right, and then else, if it's wrong, if the login is wrong, then we're going to set an error. So we're going to just grab this right here and cut it. And let's paste that in. And then I'm also going to paste it in here. After we create the session, we're going to want to redirect. All right, so if it's not a correct login, then this message here, we're going to change the ID here to login failed. And then here we'll just say login is invalid. And we'll redirect back to the login form, which is users/login. Okay. Let's see, just to test things out for now, if it succeeds, we'll just do a die function and we'll say success. Okay, and then if it doesn't, it'll do this. So let's save that, and then we need to create this login function in the model. So open up user model. Let's go right here. Say public function login. And that, remember, that's going to take in the username and password. Okay, then we just want to validate. So we'll do this db, and we're going to use where, and then we want to match username to the username that's passed in, or the variable that's passed in. Then the password is going to match the password. Okay, and then we'll say result, and let's set that to this db get users, because that's the table that we're looking in. And then we want to check for the returned rows. All right, so we can do that by saying result. We'll say result, and then we're going to use the numRows function. So if numRows is equal to 1, then we know everything's okay. It matched the user. So we want to return, and remember, we're returning the ID if it works, okay, if it matches. So we can say return result row. We want the first one. We're going to pass in 0, and then the actual ID. That'll return the user ID. Else, then of course we just want to return false because the login didn't match. So let's go ahead and save that, and then we should be able to try this out. So let's what's this, 23, should be a money sign. All right, so let's go ahead and try this. We'll try with something that's not correct, and we need to catch the error message, okay, because we have this login failed going off. So we need to go back to header PHP and just add that in our messages here. Okay, so this will be login failed. Let's change the success to danger so that it's red, and this will be login failed. Alright, so now it should give us the message. Let's reload this, and we get login is invalid. If we put a username that's in there but the wrong password, we still get login invalid. If we do Brad and then the correct password, we get success. Good. So we know that that whole matching, validating the login is working. Now, once that we get that success, we need to then create our session variables. Okay, we want to set our user data. So let's go up here and get rid of this this die. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called user_data. Set that to an array. And in here, we're going to have the user ID. And we want to set that to user_ID. So whatever is returned from here. And then we also want the username, which is going to be the username variable. And then we also want a value called logged in so that we can check to see if the user is actually logged in. And that's going to be set to true because it passed. Okay. Now we take this user data variable, which is an array, and we want to now call this session set user data. Okay, and then that's going to be passed in that user data, and that'll be stored so that we can access any of these whenever we want. And then this stuff should all be okay. So let's try it. So let's say Brad, log in, and there we go. Now the message isn't displaying because we didn't add user logged in to the header. So let's do that. Okay, and make sure that we do alert success because it's not an error. All right, so we're now logged in. Now we need a way to log out. All right, so let's create a function in the controller, the user's controller. All right. And actually, it looks like I forgot the access modifier on these. I just want to put public. All right. So log out is actually really easy. All we need to do is kill all that session data. So we're going to unset each individual one first. So unset user data. And we can do that with this session. Unset underscore user data, and we want to get rid of the logged in, and we want to do the same thing for the ID and the username. So let's copy that. So this one will be user ID, and this one will be username. Okay, and let's set a message for this for when we log out. So let's see, I'm going to just copy that, and then this is going to be user logged out, and we'll say you are now logged out. All right, and we'll add that to the header real quick. All right, so back to the controller. And then after that message, we're just going to redirect back to the login form. So let's say redirect, and that's going to go to users/login. Now we need to add a login link to the nav bar. So let's go back to header and go up here and just let's copy this, the login. And this is going to be the last element here. So let's paste it in here and say log out. And that's going to go to users log out. So let's reload, click log out, and we get you are now logged out. So now what we can do is start to add some access control. So first thing is hiding these up here. So we only want login and register to display if we're not logged in, and then the rest should display if we are. Now remember, we have that session data that we can go back to and we can check. Okay, so let's go back to our header, and let's wrap the login and register link in an if statement. Okay, so what we want to say here is if not this session user data, and we want to check for that logged in value. Okay, so if they're not logged in, then this stuff should show. And then I'm going to copy this and go down here and get rid of the exclamation mark, which makes it so that if they are logged in, these ones will show. And let's end that. And then save and reload. And now we only see login and register. Okay, if we do log in, now we get these links and we don't see the login and register. So that's what we want. Now, if we say create and we just copy this link and log out, and remember we're not logged in now, and if we go there we can still go to the create post, and we don't want that. Okay, you have to be logged in to create a post. So let's go to our users controller, go up to I'm sorry, not the users, we want to go to our post controller and go to create, and the first thing we want to do here is check the access, check if they're logged in or not. So let's just put a comma here and we'll say check login. And same thing we did in the view, we can do here. If not this session user data logged in, then we just want to redirect to users/login. Alright, so now we're not logged in. If we try to view this page, it'll boot us out, which is what we want. Alright, now we're going to copy this, and we're going to also put this down in delete. So if somehow the user is able to try to delete it, it won't work. They'll just get redirected. Same thing with edit. Same thing with update. Okay, so we'll save that. And then we also want to do it in the category create as well. And that should do it. So let's save that. Now that's all set as far as that access control, but now what we want to do is when we submit a post, we want our user ID to also be submitted. And we already created the column. If we look in posts, we have that user ID field, which I just want to set to my user, which is the ID of 1. So whoops, posts, I'm just going to say that belongs to user 1. Okay, so we want this to happen when we insert the post. So let's go to our post controller and go to create, which is right here. And actually, you know what, we want to do this in the model, the post model right here, create post. I'm just going to add on to this right here, and let's say user_ID, set that to this session user data, and we want to get the user_ID. Okay, so now when we submit a post, it'll also submit the user ID. Now, right now, if we go to a post and view it, we get the edit and delete, whether we're logged in or not, whether we're logged in as any user or not. So we want to make it so that we only see this if this is our post. So what we can do is go to the view. So we'll go to posts and then view.php, and this is where the edit and delete buttons are. The delete is actually a form. So we just want to wrap this, including the HR. I'm going to say PHP if. So we want to match the logged in user ID to this post ID. So we can do it with this session user data. No, we want user_ID, and we want to match that equal to the post and then the user ID of the post. So let's save that. Go back here and reload. What's this? Oh, I didn't end it. All right. And now we don't see the button. So if I log in as Brad, which is the post owner, and we go to the view, we can edit and delete. Okay, now if I log out and we register as another user, let's say John Doe, say 90210, email, username, we'll say John, password, whoops. Okay, so now we're registered as John. Let's go ahead and log in. And now if we go to the view page, we still can't view or edit this, which is exactly what we want. Well, we can't see the buttons. However, if we were to somehow get the link and paste that in here to edit, we can, and we don't want that either. So we want to check to make sure it's the correct user. So let's go to the post controller and go to the edit function, which takes care of loading this page. And let's go right under where we get the actual post, because we can get the ID from this as well. All right, so let's say check user. All right, so we're going to do if this session user data user ID is not equals to, and then we can grab this because this gives us the whole post. I'm sorry, the post array of it with a single post in it. And then we need to just add on square brackets here and say we want the user ID field. Okay, so we can match those. Now, if this is true, then we just want to redirect to posts. Okay, so now if we go back here and reload, it just boots us right out. All right, but if we log in as Brad, who's the post owner, we can go and we can edit. All right, so we now have some access control. Now, one last thing I want to do, I don't think I've done it yet, is actually create a post as John. Well, I know I haven't done it yet. All right, so let's say create post. We'll just say test post. Whoops. Actually, we'll just call it test post. Test. I don't have an image, so we just do it without one. Submit. And there we go. Let's say read more, and we can edit and delete because that's our post. Good. And if we log out, go back in as Brad, we shouldn't see those buttons. All right, good. So that's going to be it, guys, for this. Now, the next video, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet. If you guys have any ideas, feel free to leave them below. I can't guarantee that I'm going to do all of them or even any of them, but I'm willing to take some suggestions. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it if you're actually following through this whole series, and hopefully you enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.